G'day! Welcome to the Nerdy Dad channel and the next episode in my Bad Batch Rewind review series. Season 1 is over a year old at this point, but I'm going to flash up a spoiler warning real quick just in case. That done. Tonight I'm talking about the 4th episode of the Bad Batch Season 1 entitled Cornered. The episode was directed by Brad Rao and Saul Ruiz, and this episode has Ming-Na Wen, my favourite S.H.I.E.L.D. agent come bounty hunter, reprise her role as the bounty hunter Fennec Shand, this time in animated form. Given this is a show about clones, and we know she ends up working with Boba Fett way down the timeline, I half expected that Boba would turn up at some point in the series. It's not just Omega who's learning in this episode. The Batch have no experience operating independently of the Republic, and their inexperience shows. The first example of this is in the landing bay, where the dock worker expects them to grease his palms. Look, most clones, including the Batch, have accelerated aging to bring them to maturity quickly. In fact, to my knowledge, Boba and Omega are the only two that don't. The Batch are only a few years old at this point. In fact, we find out later that, despite appearances, Omega is actually older than the Batch. The Batch, in search of supplies and a place to modify their ship, land on Pantora. Pantorans are the blue-skinned people that first appeared in Revenge of the Sith. They include Baron Papanoida, played by George Lucas himself. On Pantora, we see another example of a planet making the transition from Republic to Empire, continuing to flesh out the time period in a galaxy far away. The citizens of Pantora are cheering the end of the war as stormtroopers march past, before the camera pans around to show a holo of Admiral Rampart pushing the transition to Imperial credits, and more importantly, to chain codes. I've said it before, but I love the world building in this series, particularly the way it shows the transition to Empire. To me, it is the absolute best part of the Bad Batch. Echo has been disguised as a droid on their supply run. Pressed for credits and unable to sell the supplies that they do have, Hunter sells Echo as a droid in a scene that, look, I don't particularly like. However, I acknowledge it is essential to the plot. While that sale is taking place, Omega wanders off, only to be found by Fennec Shand. Omega believes her to be a friend, until Hunter manages to track the pair down and Fennec takes a shot at him. Much of the rest of the episode is Hunter chasing Fennec chasing Omega, which is exciting to watch, but it doesn't provide a lot to break down. The break to this chasing is when Omega escapes into the service tunnels. Wrecker is the member of the Batch who is first on the scene. He fights with Fennec, but he ends up being defeated. He cops a blow to the head and is knocked unconscious. As with last week, let's put a pin in that. Look, even the first time around when Wrecker received head knocks 2 weeks in a row, I was far from the only person to be suspicious. It is an all-ages show, and the writers weren't exactly being subtle. Hunter eventually both rescues Omega and takes Fennec out of the chase, at least for this episode. Wrecker regains consciousness and makes his way back to the ship. Echo utilizes a group of droids from the person he was sold to in order to complete the modifications Tech was making to the Marauder, and the Batch makes their way off the planet. Thanks for joining me in this Rewind review. Please leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll catch you next time when I rewatch the Bad Batch Episode 5, Rampage. Hello Moochie. This is the Nerdy Dad, signing off.